You're good?
It's above my
Alright.
pay grade.
So, hi everyone. So it's at 4 o'clock. We're actually going to reconvene the meeting that we started on the 18th. Do I need a motion for that? No, right? Okay. So for the ones that are here, I see a lot of new faces. So for the ones that do not know me, my name is Flavia, and I am the chair of your Gateway Services Community Development District. And with me, I have my entire board today, so I'll just let everybody introduce themselves. Go ahead, Ed.
Ed Tinkle?
Bob Gempert.
Carol Pankoff.
Doug Banks.
And then also with me, I have Chelsea O'Reilly, which is your district manager. I have Randy, which is my contract manager and my CIO. And then I also have Daniel, Public Works.
Laura.
And Laura, it's my assistant district manager in the back. Then I have my assistant utility, which is Austin. And then also in the back of the room, we have Lieutenant Vaughn from Lee County Sheriff's Office.
That's in case you guys get out of line today.
Yeah, he's here for
We heard it was a rough crowd, so yes. So with that being said, I'm going to let Lieutenant Vaughn actually go first. So he can just talk to you guys and show some face and tell what's going on with Lee County Sheriff's Office and Gateway.
Thank you, Flavia. Thank you, board members. For those who don't know me, my name is Angelo Vaughn. I'm a lieutenant with the Lee County Sheriff's Office. I work in the, on behalf of Lee County Sheriff Carmen Marcino and Lee County Sheriff's Office, I say thank you for inviting me to your meeting. My position here is I work in the community response unit or group. My duties are, first of all, getting communities, which is first and foremost. What the community response unit does is work with board members, work with mainly the residents. You know, whatever your concerns are, if we can point you in the right direction, we can do that. So when we're working in gated communities, we like to have, let's say, special events. And I'd like to talk about some of the, before I talk about the assets that we offer, what we're pushing right now is the L6Q license plate reader cameras. L6Q license plate reader cameras. Why do I mention that? Well, it was brought to my attention that you've had some incidents in here, actually burglaries, which I would have to touch base with the 5th Precinct Commander about that because your zone cars are going to be responding to those calls. So that's the best way I can address that. Back to the LPRs, the license plate reader cameras. The Sheriff's Office is willing to install and help monitor these LPR cameras for this much. Zero. It doesn't cost you anything, and if the board, they will have to talk about it to discuss it to make sure it's okay with them. And then what we will do is we will set it up with RTIC, which is the Real-Time Intelligence Center. Now, has anybody done the behind the doors tour at the Sheriff's Office? Has anybody ever heard of that?
No.
Okay. You have?
Everybody here?
You've been there. Okay.
I might have been, no.
You stay right there.
You were there, but it wasn't personal. It was business.
It wasn't a business.
And so those cameras would be monitored by the Real-Time Intelligence Center. Now, what I want to put out there right away, this is not to violate anyone's privacy. This is not to violate anyone's rights. The purpose of these cameras is safety. The second purpose of these cameras is safety. The third purpose is safety. Not to invade anyone's privacy. I can't stress that enough. So the Sheriff's Office is willing to install these cameras at areas of, you know, depending on what the board decides where they need to go, the hot spots, if you will, for an exact price of nothing. I want to put that out there. Now, some of the assets that the Community Response Unit offers to the gated communities when we're not trying to help be more proactive as opposed to reactive are some of the assets. For example, we've had out here at Hampton Park, this was sometime last year, we have our ice cream truck. Has anybody ever heard of the ice cream response team? Huge hit, huge hit. So we've had them here at Hampton Park. We've had them at Magnolia Lakes. So it's a matter of, just getting out here. This is the way Sheriff Marcino wants to connect with the communities, connect with the residents, such as the ice cream truck. We also have Robbie the robot dog. So when it's not out dealing with high-profile situations, we can do a small demonstration of the robot dog. We also have cotton candy machines. Again, we've got schools ending soon. We've got graduations coming up. Kids going to be on their summer break, and we know how that gets. So to bring over the cotton candy machine, it costs you nothing. How do I know? Because I'm the guy that runs it. So those are just some of the assets we offer whenever there's special events within the community. If there's ongoing issues, I know there was one for a while with the traffic at the turnaround, at the roundabout. You got the issues over here at the high school. We've been hearing about that quite a bit. All we can do is just point you in the right direction is what I'm getting at. And what I mean by that is, if we can't handle it, then we turn it over to, let's say, Lee DOT, for example, whatever those traffic issues are. But that's what the Community Response Unit does. I handle all the gated communities, everything east of US 41, that includes Fiddlesticks, that includes everything on the plantation corridor, as well as tree line corridor, and last but not least, Gateway. So I will, I'm sure, yes, sir.
One question, in the surveillance cameras that you were referencing in the beginning.
Yes, sir.
We installed Lee County Sheriff surveillance cameras at the entrances to Gateway and Pelican a couple of years ago. Is this a supplement or replacement or?
This is going to be a supplement, but I will let me check on that.
Because we've had it a couple of years now.
Yeah, we've had like 4 or 5
We have
cameras.
actually in all entrances, so we have 82 in Griffin.
16 cameras.
16
Yeah,
cameras?
we cover all entrances, so yeah.
Let me double check that, so I don't want to speak out of turn, but thank you for bringing that to my attention.
I just thought maybe it was an enhancement or
No,
something different.
I'm glad
Okay.
you mentioned it because I just took over this position about maybe 6 months ago, if that. But I will definitely get with, let's say, Lieutenant Matthews, who's worked this area much longer than I have, see if this is a duplicate or can we, whatever you have, leave it in place.
But I do know that it is the same option is available for HOAs. I know Pinewood utilizes them, so if like Hampton Park would like to have that installed,
Okay.
they can contact it and they will have additional ones at their entrances, both
You mean internal?
internal, yeah.
Internal?
You have it as well, right? Yeah, Gateway Green. So it's something that's available for the communities as well.
Yes, ma'am. All right, thank you.
Or all? No, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Somebody had a question
Yeah,
over
just a
here?
quick question.
Yes, sir.
I live in Cypress, president of Cypress K, and we just were involved in break-ins recently, just a couple of days ago, all over Wake News. That'd be something, and we're not gated. So you're not saying it's just gated communities?
No, even if it's not gated,
Okay,
and even if it's not gated, if your board is okay with it, the sheriff's office will install cameras over there.
okay. Because we would also have to get together with Bristol Park because there's an entrance to Bristol Park that runs through to Cypress K. So I'll make contact with the Bristol Park people, and I think that'd be a great thing.
And when you make contact with the Bristol Park people, once again, I know I sound like a broken record, it is not to violate anybody's rights. We're not here to impose on anybody's privacy. If there's anybody that's big on privacy, it's me. Trust me. So I get that.
Quite frankly, they work because apparently they caught the perpetrators that were breaking in Cypress K. They were from Tampa, and the plate readers that go out to 82
Yes.
got the plate.
Good.
I assisted with your sheriff's office, and we had some footage of stuff at our pool area. We showed the car and which direction it went, so that was.
What's your name, sir?
My name's Scott. Right?
Thanks, Scott. Thank you. Thank you. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. I'll go with this young lady right here and that gentleman right there. You're next.
So I have a question. Do you have a program that addresses e-bikes? We have a problem in our community. I'm a board member of Stony Brook, and we have a problem right now going on with e-bikes in our community. Do you have something that addresses that?
Good question. We're talking about e-bikes. That's where I would have to get with my crime prevention specialist. Not that e-bikes are a crime, but they can be a nuisance if they're being mishandled. I will have to speak with them on that matter. I don't want to speak out of turn on e-bikes, but that is something we can definitely address. And I'm glad you mentioned that because that's the first I've ever heard of it.
And part of the issue that we're seeing, because I'm a Stony Brook resident as well, it's what are guidelines with e-bikes, sidewalks versus street? And if they're on sidewalks versus street, is there any difference to adherence to any regulations? Or,
Under 15 mile an hour versus
Well,
up to 25 mile an hour.
I think it gets even more
They
complicated.
fall under and per statute, they fall under motorized vehicles. There is no difference between an electric bike and a golf course. So that's your
Golf
issue.
carts has been
So,
banned from Gateway from all of our streets. All of our roads that you guys have, which is Griffin Drive, Commerce Lakes, and Gateway Boulevard, no golf carts. Those are electrified. If they're not allowed, why would e-bikes be allowed?
and is there a specification between 2 and 4 wheel?
Don't
Or
know.
not?
Don't know. It's going to be a serious situation because these bikes are coming out of the schools and flying up and down these sidewalks. They don't have a license. They're not street legal, so they can't be on the street. So their only place to go is the sidewalk. And if golf carts can go on the sidewalk, why would they be prohibited on golf carts or on sidewalks?
I'll have to research that. I don't have the answer for that offhand. All I can do is look into it right
It's
now.
become a real problem in Stony Brook, and it continues to escalate.
It's everywhere.
It's getting to be more of a problem
It's everywhere.
because they're becoming more popular.
Chelsea, when's an appropriate time? Because I think this is essentially for several communities, and there's answers that, or at least guidance that we'll need. When's a good opportunity for us?
I think we could definitely invite Lieutenant Vaughn and his team back on this topic specifically at a future board meeting.
Yeah,
Yep.
maybe a workshop or, yeah.
I have a question on the cameras. We have 29 cameras in Gateway Greens, and we have 29 cameras hooked up to Comcast with fiber connections to operate the cameras. All of the cameras that you're talking about, what's the method of how do they communicate if they don't have a fiber connection? How do they work?
To go into those particulars, I'm not a technician, but what I can do instead is I can forward you, sir, or I can forward this to Flavia, if you don't already have it. There's a video and there's a brochure that can go into more details on how the L6Q works.
Because all of our cameras report back to a central location.
Yes, sir.
We have a video screen, great big, huge TV screen with 29 cameras on it that we can watch, but all of that is facilitated because we have a Comcast fiber connection to every one of those cameras. If you don't have that, I don't see how you have real time.
We'll have real time because those cameras that
Lauren
we
can answer
install,
that.
they
I
go,
can answer that. The LPRs that we have in Gateway go over cellular, and it's all housed on the cloud, and I know Lee County has a login for it because I had to approve it. Those images are available within less than a minute from when they're taken. So it's instantaneous.
Okay, so ours are covered, but if they add other ones in other communities,
That wouldn't be part of our account. We would
Okay,
have to,
that's
that's
fine.
totally separate. We have our own Gateway ones
That's
that
what
we
it
have,
costs,
16 that we have for Gateway, and then theirs would be something separate from ours.
Gateway and Pelican.
Yeah, well, you're at your entrance, yeah.
again, our cameras are going to be monitored by Arctic. It says real-time intelligence there. That's exactly what that means. Not to be flippant, but that's what that
yeah,
means.
something has to get that information back to a point.
Yes.
And internet's about the only thing I know.
The gentleman in the blue shirt, and then you're next, sir.
Is this camera in a fixed location, or does it move throughout the community?
Those cameras would be in a fixed location. That would be up to the board or wherever those hot spots may be, but it would be in a fixed location. Yes, sir.
We think we're covering every entrance into Gateway and every entrance into
Correct
Pelican.
me if I'm wrong, has the law changed? Is it still law enforcement only allowed to view these cameras?
Okay, the question is law enforcement the only ones that can view these cameras as of right now? Yes.
So anyone else that would be viewing these cameras outside of sworn law enforcement would be violating the statute, correct?
That would be a problem. It's just the cops.
Thank you.
Okay? Go ahead, sir.
That would be for your cameras. We have cameras covering all around our entrance.
Yes, sir.
And it's available through the internet, if given access to the internet. Would we give you that access and to see our cameras? I don't know that we need more cameras.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
But
Gateway Greens.
But you
Anytime any issue comes up to which the information that is shown on our cameras is beneficial to LCSO, we give it to them.
Are you talking about LPR? He's talking about his
I
personal
think
situation.
I give you a CD or one of those.
Depending on the nature of the crime, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think they're not recording or handling and overseeing these LPRs. It's housed in their system, their smart system, but your security cameras around, like your gatehouse and things like that, that's all yours. If there's an incident, then they would come to you and say, hey, do you have this
So it wouldn't
footage?
be hooked up to there?
No. Just those LPRs would.
Yeah, the system as originally explained to us was such that if Lee County was looking for a particular vehicle, license plate number, whatever, and they put that into their data system, if that vehicle hit any of these cameras, anywhere, it triggers the alert to you. There's not somebody sitting there watching the 16 cameras.
That was the idea.
That's what was explained to us when we put them in. Is that consistent with what?
That is consistent with what I was talking about. Hold that thought for a minute. This young lady is next, then you gentleman, and then this gentleman right here. Go ahead.
Well, I don't know if everybody's aware, but the Arctic, where they watch this, is in the police station, and wouldn't be, the cameras are everywhere. Like, they're on a number of intersections. The cameras they see all kinds of different areas. If you do the tour, you'll be able to see that. And the only people that can go in there are staff, people that have been sworn in. So no one else would see it. And it's different than like what we have in our community. It's a different reception. So they don't, I'm obviously at Gateway, or not Gateway, go down to Colonial and Daniels or anywhere. When they have the cameras there, this is the same type of thing they're setting up, right? So it'll be on the same system. So I think it's more like a Earthlink,
It's like
Starlink, not through Comcast.
Right. Gentleman right there, and then back to you, sir.
Yes, maybe I can add on to this, because we already have an agreement with the Lee County Sheriff's Office. We have a cloud-based system of cameras already installed in Roaring Greens at Gateway. So what we did was we granted Lee County Sheriff's Office authorization to be able to access those cameras for law enforcement purposes. So maybe I can add on to help with it. But we have cloud-based cameras all over the community, and we granted access, which is revocable anytime, but we did grant that access to Lee County.
Well, we greatly, Sheriff Marcino, greatly appreciate that. Thank you. Gentleman right there in the dark blue shirt.
So I have a board meeting on Monday, and if our board approves for these cameras to be installed, how do we go about doing that?
Flavia, am I sending that email to you as far as?
No, you would have contacted him directly, and then you would have forwarded to Matthews or Truscott. Actually, Truscott was handling ours.
And my last question is, sorry. No. Are they two separate cameras? Are they reading going in and out? Or is that just one camera reading going in and out?
It's just one camera reading in and out.
Okay, so it does read both coming in and going out?
Correct.
Where are you located?
Cypress Gate.
Cypress K.
Cypress.
So Angela, what you're asking for from this group, because these are representatives of the HOAs, are you asking them to take this information back to their communities, and those that would like to participate?
Get a hold of me.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So we will follow up with Angela's information to everyone in our meeting follows. If someone has a board meeting soon, Angela's got some cards. He could probably, he gave you one, but if there's anyone that's having, something immediately, I would ask for a card before you leave.
And your meetings are held at the office, aren't they? At the CBD office?
They're held at our pool area.
Oh, okay. And just not to make it confusing, so you do not need any permission from the district to install those cameras on your private property. So it's just an example. We as a district have it covered under our entrances for the district, meaning the main roads, but if you want it in your community, you do not need our blessing. So you literally reach out to Angelo, Lieutenant Vaughn, and then you kind of go from there. Directly, yes.
Yeah.
And then what we'll do is we'll add this maybe for the next meeting and as a topic in the agenda, and then we can get more information out that way too.
Let's ask, poll the audience. How many of the associations here have communities that do not have currently any ingress or egress camera monitoring whatsoever?
And we're not talking about security.
I know you got it. You got it on me. Yeah, in your own internal community, you don't have it. Yeah, but in
We
your
have the ones when you come in, it's
yeah.
the license plate, but we don't have at the front.
Okay, so we've got what, maybe a half a dozen that don't have anything whatsoever. Okay, and then maybe some of the sub-associations, like Jerry, you do over in my community. Well, we have it internally. You don't have it internally in yours. So, which is a little bit, it gets it a little bit more complicated. But okay, that's good.
One last thing while Lieutenant Vaughn's here. Randy, we just had a community meeting this morning.
Yes.
And so the district, in partnership with the sheriff's office, hosts at the district boardroom quarterly seminars or meetings where the sheriff's office comes in. What was today's?
Bullying within communities.
Bullying within communities. So please keep an eye on our website, Facebook, social media, things like that. We do host those. We had about 7 or 8 participants this morning, trying to build that up. And again, these are for you and your community. If we're hearing of break-ins or things like that, we can try to gear those quarterly meetings towards those types of things. So,
The gentleman right here had a question.
If, at Prado, if we want to install these just going in and out of Prado, it would be on Gateway property. Who do I contact? Chelsea to start that ball rolling?
it would be district property, so we can converse.
I'll work with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can work it through PPAC and see if they.
Okay, so if anybody else needs Lieutenant Vaughn's information, now is the time. So we're not gonna.
And can I just say one thing? So when we do these quarterly initiatives with the sheriff's department, probably a good idea for us to incorporate highlights in our President's Council meeting. Just let's take 5 minutes and just say if we can line either took place 2 weeks ago or yesterday. Here's what the focus was. This is important for our HOA leaders to take that information back if there's some things that they can leverage.
Good idea.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
If we have e-bikes running around in the community, who do we call? Like on the golf course?
Okay, the question was, if these individuals that are misusing these e-bikes, obviously, call the non-emergency number. If I'm not available, more than likely a zone deputy will be dispatched to this area. They don't have to contact you, just say, we have XYZ person, black male, 5'8", bald head, big build, riding.
It's him.
Yes, sir.
In a sheriff's uniform.
Stop that.
I couldn't see who was riding it. It was in the dark and they were just going in the sand traps and all up and down.
Call us.
That was just Ed looking for his balls.
You caught me.
I'll talk to you later. But all joking aside, just call the sheriff's office, ask them to do an area check.
Okay.
Okay, we can get a marching drill there, and maybe they're up to something else.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Just to FYI.
All right.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Get back. And
Can you make some of the cards?
And
if anybody would like to do the tour, the next one is May 8th, and registration is needed. It's on the Lee County Sheriff's Office website.
It's booked.
It's booked? Okay.
So there'll be another one.
Okay. The next one we have, I think Austin's going to presenting the meter project update and a full development.
All right, Mr. Manoli. Take your chair.
So, Austin Manoli, the Assistant Utilities Manager, and
Outside voice.
and I'm here to talk about the upcoming meter replacement pilot project. So, our overall objectives for this are to trial a new advanced metering infrastructure system to replace our existing one. And we're also concurrently trying to replace a lot of our older infrastructure, so meter boxes, and then the associated brass fittings, because a lot of them are rather old at this point, need to be replaced. And as far as what we're going to accomplish with that, we're hoping to standardize our parts inventory and replace the old cast iron lids with more modern polymer boxes. They're trap rated. And as far as the scope of this meter pilot project, we have 306 meters that are going to be replaced. We're hoping to get 3 vendors in here to try out 3 different systems. So that means 102 meters per vendor. And then that table shows a more detailed breakdown of how all these meters will be allotted across each manufacturer who partakes in the pilot project. And then there's a map showing where exactly these meters are going to be installed. Predominantly, we're replacing like 5/8 by 3/4 inch meters, so the small ones that are in people's individual residences. Although we are going to be replacing a limited number of larger meters, namely 3-inch potable water meters, and some of our well meters, which are 6 inches, just to make sure we're collecting, as wide as possible of a data set to accurately assess the reliability of the
So
metering system we're going to with.
the point of selecting these locations in particular, and if you notice the names of them, you'll notice a lot of them have pretty old oak trees, right? And so we selectively chose these locations, which there will be letters going out to the individual residences that are being impacted in the next week. Because these are the hardest places that it's going to take to replace the box, the meter, and all of the equipment associated to it. So this pilot project is that. It's a pilot to see what scenarios we're going to hit with regards to landscaping, with regards to routes, standardizing the equipment. We selected these so we would know worst case scenario, and then hopefully when we proceed to full deployment, we'll have a better idea of what we're undertaking.
So as a board, can we supplement the communication? Is there something?
Absolutely, absolutely. We're going to get all of that out in the next week or so. We just finalized the letter. This board saw it at our last meeting. We'll be sending it out to the HOAs for those specific communities and the individual property owners. So you'll see that shortly.
So do we have everybody from those communities that are being affected now?
Is anybody here from Pinewood, Devonshire, Mahogany Run, Callaway, Stony Brook?
We got Callaway, Stony Brook.
You're Callaway.
Okay, so those are the ones that were, yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's what I was asking, since, that's a third of our property.
And we will be hosting a town hall for those residents that are impacted, and all of that information will be detailed in that letter, so that way you can come and learn. So,
Keep in mind, we have 4,000 plus residents with both a potable water meter and an irrigation meter. All have to be replaced. This pilot project is determined just exactly how we're going to go through that process and pick a vendor or vendors to do this work. But that is a tremendous job. You go back 20, 30 years, just go down some of the streets, if you're like into some of the older communities, like where I live, Mahogany Run North, that are 30, 34 years old. You're lucky to find the meter pit. We can't have that anymore. These meter pits have to be out in the open. They can't be landscaped. We can't put water features on top of them. None of that anymore. And we're going to try and see what these first 300 creates in the way of problems, because they're essentially the older units that are out there that some of them, I don't even know if we know where they're at. But that's an issue we've got to resolve, and we're going to try to figure out what are all the problems associated with fixing these 300, because if we can get them as the 300 toughest ones, the other 5,000 might be a little bit simpler. We're talking about $8 to $10 million to do this work. over the next couple of years.
Once the 300 are installed and we understand the installation challenges, how long are we going to run the pilot to determine if A is better than B or B is better than C?
9 months at a minimum, and that's in order for us to hit all of, well, Florida seasons, right? Rainy season and dry season, really.
Okay, so there is at least a minimum period of time.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
So, you want to keep going?
So to date, progress. So this project really kind of kicked off back in late last year. We ordered materials and we awarded a contract to a plumbing firm called Riley & Sons to do the actual meter box installation work. And we've gotten to the point where we're starting to chip away at the work involved in the full-scale meter replacement project. We decided to pursue a state revolving fund loan for the project, which, if approved, will represent a significant cost savings to the district due to much lower interest rates on those loans. We've got an RFP done for the meter replacement portion, and that's basically, at this point, we're just kicking that back and forth with DEP for finalization. We have already started purchasing materials for this project because the lead times on service brass parts are insane. Honestly.
How many months, Austin?
Like 6 to 8. I ordered the brass for the pilot project back in September, and we just got all of it last week. So.
Also, we might want to say one thing else too. A lot of you have had problems over years because of oak trees. They're a pain. They've gotten into your metering systems, whether they're the irrigation or the potable or both, and tore them up. What we're trying to figure out is we got a line, it's on the main, that ties into your house with both an irrigation and a potable line, both. Comes into that pit and then goes to your house. One goes into the house, one goes to your irrigation system. If those trees, the oak trees, are prohibiting that to go back, our problem is to relocate your meter. And typically in Gateway, on a property line, you and your neighbor, your pit's on one side of the line and his on the other, and the oak tree's in the middle. That's Gateway. Welcome to Gateway. We've got to figure out how to avoid that being a problem going forward. So it may necessitate moving those meter pits down, which means we have to have a new reconnection to the main or run a line from the main over to the new pit. That's the easy part. That's on our side of the easement. The problem is, once we go through the meter, we have to reconnect into your system. That makes it a total project. That is the problem why we want to go through this, to find out how complicated is this going to be on the typical unit. This is not one shoe fits all. Every house will have a different situation. But the bottom line is we have to connect to the meter and we have to reconnect to your water and your irrigation system. So where you might have had a dog buried, a cat buried, or all the other things we've heard about, they may be impacted by this because we simply have to take and get from A to B. And we can't go through oak trees again. We just can't do it. So those are some of the complications that staff and the engineers are going to have to go through in designing this. That's why we want to do this pilot. We've picked what we believe to be 300 not only representative but tough cookies to crack here on this to make sure that it works. If we can get these, then I think the rest of them will fall in the wayside. Some of the newer communities, this isn't going to be that challenging because they had a little bit more common sense to put a stupid oak tree right next to the line. But in older Gateway, that goes back, the ones that we're doing in the 80s and the 90s, that's not the case. So it's going to be a little bit more complicating. So we want to work with each and every owner to let them know that work with us. What we want to do is to get that line from the main to your meter, the meter to your reconnection to your house, to where we don't have these problems going forward, to where you have to come out and pay a lot of money because an oak tree decided to wrap around your service line on your side of the meter as opposed to our side. Because if it's on our side, we pay for it. If it's on your side, you pay for it. We don't want to have that anymore. So it's going to be a challenge, so kind of bear with us on this. I think we have a question.
Well, I don't think he's done.
You had a question? Oh.
Is there any new, we're replacing them because we're replacing old with new? Or is there new functionality and new features about these meters that causes you to want to replace them?
Both.
Or is it strictly old versus new?
All the above. All of the above.
All of the above.
Finish your PowerPoint.
So, as far as future progress goes, so planned start date, that's at this point outdated. Tentatively, we're planning on starting the meter box replacement phase of this project during the first week of June. And then on May 22nd, we're holding a town hall meeting for affected residents. If anyone has, concerns they want to voice, be a good opportunity to do that. And then the planned meter installation phase will commence in September to October of 2024, depending on when the box replacement's completed. And then also concurrently with that, we're still working on verifying service line materials and sizes, both for the meter box replacement and also for the service line inventory that is required under EPA's lead and copper rule improvements. If you live in like the older areas of Gateway Greens, you've probably seen our crews out there with the back trailer poking holes around your meter box. That's why they're looking to verify the materials and sizes of both your incoming irrigation line and also the incoming and outgoing potable water service lines.
Austin, when are we going to be sending out to each of these 300? Don't want to say.
Next week. He said
Next week. Okay. For those, especially in Gateway Greens, where 40-50% of our people have flown north already, how are we communicating with them? We're sending it to the address of record?
Yes.
Okay. So if they are gone, they might want to take and give us or appoint somebody who is a overseer of what's going on as far as their house, if they've got any concerns. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's maybe where we can help supplement that communication, because we've got their email addresses and we're the same information to ensure that they're getting it on a timely basis.
We appreciate that.
Then we've got a copy of the draft version of the letter we were planning on sending out to all the residents that were affected. That's basically what they're going to be seeing to notify them of the.
So ultimately, what's getting ready to happen is the project is split really into 4 phases, but really, so you have the pilot phase that's starting now. And in that pilot phase, you have box replacement, because that cast iron lid, we want to do away with that. We want to standardize our boxes. So that plumbing contractor is going to be moving in this summer for the pilot. He'll come in, he'll put in all the new parts. We had to wait for the brass to come in. And then once we push this RFP out and we select the 3 vendors that we're looking to bring on board and do a test run with, those vendors will come out and swap the meters out. So ultimately there will be 2 interruptions of service. Of course, we'll be in communication with all of those individual property owners that are impacted. We'll have points of contact and things like that from the project management side. So are there any questions about the metering project?
Chelsea, is this?
You remind me the timeline of the pilot, and when you finish the pilot, do you expect to start replacing the 4,000 others immediately?
We're pursuing SRF funding, which that hearing is in August. So we're probably a year out before we even talk about starting the boxes for the whole deployment. So pilot starts June, add 12 months to that. So then really by next summer, we'd be starting full deployment, hopefully selecting and awarding it to the vendor for the full deployment. And again, that same concept, boxes have to go in first. That has to get ahead, and then the meter company would come in after the fact.
So Steve, you bring up a point that we need to point out is that we've got a lot of condominiums type developments where they may be under a master meter, or you might have one unit or one building that has one meter and you all internally divide the water bill up by them. So in other words, if you've got 8 units in the building, you may only have one meter and then you split that, however, among that. The only time that the people in condos that would really get involved would be in the case where every condo has its own water meter. I'm going to guess that that probably doesn't happen much here. And when it comes to irrigation, I would almost definitely guess it doesn't happen, because I think most of your irrigation's on master meters. So the switch over of the new meters for the irrigation component, you guys probably won't even know it ever happened.
Well,
Pretty sure in our community that we have, by building, we have 20.
Building meters.
So you have 1 meter per building, and then however you divvy it up, you divvy up the water bill,
HOA.
whatever. So the impact of this project for condo associations that have multiple units and multiple buildings probably is going to be minimal. Single family homes is where the issues
Some
are.
of them are hard to find, you're absolutely right. We can chase them one with a lead.
There are cash register, we'll find them.
Angela, did you have a question?
Is this presentation already on their website, or will it be on their
Yes,
site?
ma'am. It's already on the website. Anybody else have any? Yeah.
Just to clarify something you said earlier, if you have to move a meter due to impact from a tree, is there any expense to the homeowner to reconnect to the meter?
That's been an issue since day one. My position is that I don't think there should be. I think the issue of how Westinghouse did this place 20, 30, 40 years ago should not be a penalty for anybody in the community. The connection or the reconnection to the main, if we can run the line over and into the meter, and then the reconnection back to your potable line or your irrigation line, as far as I'm concerned, that's lumps up a package that we do and absorb. All of that is considered project cost.
Correct.
I am not of the opinion that any cost should go back to the owner for any particular issues.
It's your opinion, but
Staff said that
It's not going to
it
be.
will not, no cost will be incurred for any type of movement or relocation.
Jennifer had a question.
So, question pops into my mind is, there's no discussion about tree removal or anything like that, so there's no plans to remove any trees, it's just relocating the meter itself.
Correct. But
We're gonna
that's
try to
not-
move
But if a
around.
homeowner wants to remove the tree, that will be the time.
Okay.
And so the landscaping, if there is landscaping, we're working on drafting a rule that will be coming in front of this board to have a 3-foot clearance around all meters, and actually have that as a rule and, call it fines, what do we call it? Fees, that you would be charged a fee if there was any obstruction or landscaping around in that 3-foot radius of the meter. So, again, we're looking long-term, trying to address this, unlike our friends in the past who planted the oak tree right next to the meter box. So, is there any other questions for Mr. Minold?
Mess it up, we'll try to.
None?
Anything else? All right, well, thank you, Austin.
Thank you.
All right, so the next item we have, it's budget process, and then I'll turn it over to Laura.
Hello, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Laura Leroy. I'm the Assistant District Manager here in Gateway, and I live numbers pretty much from March until October every year, and then I get a small break, and then I live numbers again. So the dreams have started. I do dream about budget at night, so I take my job very seriously. So this is just to give you an overview. The basic timeline of the budget doesn't really change much from year to year. Normally in April, each year we get our preliminary budget. It goes around staff. I spend time with each of the department heads, talking to them about what kind of capital projects they want to do, what the expenses they're expecting for the next year. We compile all that, and I think I have 2 more boxes I need to fill in tomorrow morning, so you guys will have it on the rough first draft will be on the board meeting, on the first board meeting in May for you guys to see for the first time. So, and then in June every year by statute, the board of directors must approve the budget, which is what we call our high water mark. After that point, the budget can only go down, it can't go up. It can stay the same, it can go down, it just can't go up. So that's a statutory requirement that needs to be done by June 15th every year. My goal is to have it done on the 6th, which I believe is the first board meeting in June. So to have that done on the 6th. And then
Can you pause right there just for a second? Because to me, this is the important thing, and we get questions from residents that, every year. Your budget that you do for your HOA also is impacted by our budget. Some of you more than others. The high water mark is really important. That's the first phase. That's where we have done due diligence. We've put items in the budget that are on the priority list that have all these things. But that's where we start. Again, to Laura's point, we can't go higher than that, but we can absolutely go lower. And that has been the trend for as long as I've been around. Is we start there and then we start trimming fat. We deprioritize some things to try to get it to a manageable number at the end of the process. It might take us through the multiple iterations to get to the final approval to where that is the final budget. Right. Now, last year it was
Which is, I think last year was all the way
we
to
only
the
had
end.
4 versions.
I think it 4 times.
We had 4. Version 4 was the one.
It's 4 times 4 years ago.
Yeah, but last year was probably the change from first to second to third to fourth was probably the least that I've ever seen. Now, we've done some things in the past where we really started with the high water mark as we threw everything because we wanted the kind of residents to see these are all the things that need to get done over time, and that number kind of gave some people a heart attack. But anyway, my point is, when you are communicating and working along with your HOA members, knowing that first pass is the high water mark, that's a good place to to kind of put a stake in the ground and say it will not be higher than this.
It cannot be higher.
It cannot be higher. However, more than likely, it will continue to go lower. So when you are communicating your budget iterations, and if you're using ours from the first iteration, second iteration, the communication is this is the high water mark that has been set by the district. We say it over and over again. It will not go higher. More than likely, it will go lower. The reason why I pause here is because some communities do put their budgets out, the initial drafts, early. And I don't know if every community does the same thing where you start with a high water mark and kind of work your way down. But it's just really nice to communicate that to the residents when you're talking about our portion of the budget.
Well, I think the key thing is keep in mind, our CDD budget impacts no one in this room other than Pelican Preserve, Stony Brook, or the Fairway Lake Office Park and the Town Lakes Office Park. Gateway Greens, where I'm at. What we do here has an impact on you, one place and one place only. That's on November 15th when you get the notice from the county that your share of the gateway tax is X. However, at Stony Brook, it's a little bit different. And at Pelican Preserve, it's a little bit different because ours impacts yours because ours is a part of yours. So...
that's not true.
Huh?
That's not true. It's on their tax bill.
I'm sorry?
It's on their tax bill.
It's on the tax bill, but what I'm saying is if I live in Gateway Greens, I have nothing on my HOA that is impacted by your tax bill.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yes, got it.
All right.
So I think that's the big one. But Stony Brook and Pelican Preserve are definitely impacted by this because it's additive into your rates.
All right, Laura.
Okay. So after we set the high water mark in June, we call it our high water mark. By June 15th, the letters that you get in the mail every year from us that say this is how much it's going to be that you're going to owe potentially cannot exceed, I believe how it's worded. Those go out in July. Every single budget meeting that we have, starting with the one next week, there will be a workshop at the first budget meeting each month and an agenda item on the budget or on the agenda for the meeting. For every single meeting that we have from now until the day of the public hearing, when we will still discuss budget and have the public hearing. So if anybody says that we are not having any discussions about budget, it is on every single agenda from next Thursday through.
Last month, we started.
We didn't start with the budget, we had a workshop, but it's on every meeting now going forward, starting with the May 2nd, May 4th, I forget the date, May 4th, whatever it is, next week Thursday. So it'll be on every single meeting between now and when we have our hearing to adopt the budget, which is the one that's the final done. That's what actually gets sent to the county. That's the amount that'll go on your taxes. That's the one that's published online. So that's what we stick to then for the next year.
And we do break that down. So we'll split different aspects of the budget, and we'll talk about it in detail through the various
Sure. And
timelines.
the way that I present it is basically there's three parts to it. There's the operations expense, which is like our copy paper and our electricity and our, the water bill we pay ourselves we're using for irrigation. Your normal operations expenses, salaries, those are included in there. But we do have a separate discussion about staffing. So when I put my budget together, I have three worksheets. I have a staffing worksheet, I have an operation worksheet, and I have a capital worksheet. So we look at all those pieces individually, and then they all go together to come to do the final budget. Makes it a little more manageable to decipher and discuss if we break it down like that. All right, next. So this is the letter that I referenced earlier. You'll get it in July. It usually goes out at the beginning of July, and my phone rings off the hook starting at the end of July.
I go vacation in July.
She does. She usually goes the week that the letters get delivered. She's usually gone. We did make one change to the letters last year, finally, after years of me begging with our attorney. You will have two numbers in your letter that you get from us. One is the operations expense that comes from this budget that we approved. And there's the other one that's the debt service expense, which is what covers if you have some bonds like Pelican and old Pelican, you guys have a bond, so you have a small payment that you have to make. The amounts to cover the lake bank restoration for those SRF loans, those are included in there. This will be the first assessment that has some of the bond for the bonds we took out to do the work that we're doing inside of Gateway. That'll also be in there. So there's going to be two numbers in your letter that you get this year. You have to add those together. And that's the amount that will be on your tax bill. Because everyone always says that it says it will not exceed, but it's that number plus the debt service. It's just one total on your bill. So make sure when you get them, you add those together. So this kind of just goes through a little bit about how do we get our information. A lot of it is historical, and like I talked about earlier, I do meet with all the department heads. We meet with staff, we get input from the community, we have input from the board, we have things that just need to happen based on what's going on with our infrastructure, which covers all that. And then we do bottom line, after the high water mark is set, like Doug said, we do go and we look at what the financial impact to the residents is at the high water mark. And then we keep honing it until we get down to what we consider to be a manageable amount for your bills. And I did talk about this already a little bit. How can you get involved and stay informed? Like I said, it's on every single meeting from now until the middle of August when we have our public hearing. Come to a meeting. You can't come to a meeting. You can just view the agendas, the topics, all the presentations. Like this one is actually online. If you go to our website, this whole meeting is there. You can download all these PDFs. They're part of our agenda. You can email the board. You can email customer care. You can email me. I will answer your questions. Randy does a great job of promoting us on Facebook and on our webpage. We try to keep all the information out there. And then, I think that was everything you had. Oh, yeah, there's a note about public comments. We had gotten some feedback. If the board has a workshop, they can't vote during that meeting at all, so it's just truly for them to have discussion. And that's, public comments are not allowed during meetings where the board doesn't vote. So you can come, but you won't be able to give public comment during a workshop. During a regular board meeting, then you can sign up to give public comments.
And I'm sure you all go through the same thing when it comes to budget. It's the most uncomfortable time of the year, especially when we're trying to continue to improve the community, do stuff. Like I said, for the past 7+ years, we've actually been fixing, things that are broken, infrastructure. So we've been really trying to improve things, whereas previous board members, the philosophy was to let's just address it down the road. Let's keep the assessment as flat as possible, but let's not fix anything. That hasn't been our philosophy. But I would ask that everyone in the room be good stewards of the process. And what I mean by that is, try to be as informed as possible. I love it that we have these president council meetings so we can talk about it. but try to attend the meetings, or at least review it online, or if you have questions, call staff. They'd be more than happy to talk to you about it. Because where I see the biggest issue, and why I'm asking you all to be good stewards, is we can't control what's put on social media, but I would look to board members within the specific HOAs. If you see something that's just false, just call it out. Hey, this isn't accurate, whether it's directly or you private message someone. Reach out to the district for more information. Because what will happen is, and we all see it, someone puts something out that's false about the budget or a line item, someone jumps on top of it. Next thing you know, you've got 15 people that are jumping on top of a false statement or something that may not be accurate, and it just kind of snowballs from there. So what I would ask is continue to stay engaged through these meetings, attend the board meetings when we're going through budget. If you have questions, reach out to staff. And if you see someone, stating something that's just not accurate, you don't have to directly call them out on social media. But
The other one you got to watch is on this social media stuff. Is you put us in a very difficult position as board members because of the Florida Sunshine Law and ethics. We have to watch if we get involved in a dialogue that would start stating what our position is. We've crossed the line. So a lot of people want to know, well, why is the board members not jump involved and got involved or get involved in responding to this? What do we say that doesn't play to or is used to be used against us, that you're basically going out and stating a position that's public information? We can't do that.
I think also one thing that I think Ed and I hear the most is Randy does a great job. In addition to posting the items on Facebook, which not everybody uses, which is okay, we do send out all the communication to the property managers and the board presidents that is listed as our contact. What we hear a lot is when residents from, I'm just going to pull it out, a community, Gateway Greens, they'll come in and they'll say, well, we didn't know about this. We didn't know about, everything is new to us. So we can only do so much. So we can put the information out, we can send it to your CAM, but there is no buy-in from your board, which is the people that are sitting across from us right now. So that's what we really want. We're just asking you to be the messenger. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. We're sending you the communication, and that's going to aid what Doug is talking about, because we are doing the work, we're getting the communication, we're sending it to you, and all we need is for you to just go ahead and give the okay to the CAM, say, look, any communication that comes from the district, just forward it to email blast to the residents, because it's information only. It's going to lessen the questions that you guys are going to have during your board meetings, and it's going to lessen, what goes on Facebook, on Nextdoor, and all of those items. It is just, the more you educate your residents, then the easier it's going to be for you. The more we educate you, then the easier it's going to be for us. But it is a partnership. Like, it doesn't matter how many times Randy sits there and writes those letters and emails it out. If it ends there at your CAM, then we're not doing a good job. So we really need a commitment from you guys. If you guys want to review every single document that is put out by Randy and say, okay, this one goes, this one does not, fine. But I think we would appreciate it if you just go ahead and give it to your CAM and say, look, if it's coming from the district, because we all know it's not political, it's information, this is what's happening, and if you have a voice, those are the meetings. Just send them out.
Yeah.
Forward it out.
And Angela does a really good job for Stony Brook. Even before almost every board meeting, she will reply on the Stony Brook community page and say, board meeting on this Thursday, topic this, and this. So she really helps reinforce our message through our own, HOA or community channels. She does a really good job of that.
And I've been putting it in the newsletter.
Right, yeah, Jennifer, I'm sorry to leave you out. I didn't mean that.
We're trying to get people to pay attention.
Pay attention and be informed. It's more important. Like, we don't care if you agree or disagree or you're indifferent.
Yeah.
Just read it.
But at least be informed.
So you guys kind of stole my slide, my last one. So how do you get involved and stay informed? We do have all of our agendas are posted on our website. The ones for the meetings that are like today are in the top part, and any old agendas are in the bottom. They're all accessible. They're in perpetuity. They're staying there forever. All of our regular meetings, the board meetings, are on YouTube. If you ever want to watch or listen to them, they're all recorded and posted there.
How soon can they? They're not.
Normally, they're there the next day.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, normally. If we don't have any problems, they're normally posted the next day.
Unless George is on vacation.
I had them up.
Oh, okay.
I had them up the next day. unless you run into a problem. So access the agendas, obviously attend a meeting or attend on either in person or online. You can comment on agenda items ahead of time. We have many people who email in with concerns or comments on things on the agenda. It comes to customer care. We do forward it off to the board. Depending on the comments and when we get them, if they're at the last minute, a lot of times I will read them in during public comment if it's something that comes in late. If you're there in person, you can sign up, you get 3 minutes, you can talk about whatever you want to talk about. It means it's public comment. And then the last thing, 2 things actually. You can sign up to receive a notice when the agendas are published. It'll automatically go to your email. There's a link right on our website, right above the agenda section. You can put your email in there. Anytime an agenda is published, you'll get an email saying that the agenda for X meeting is now available. And we do have, to add kind of on to what you guys have, we have Constant Contact, which is our mailing system. If you'd like to sign up to receive emails directly from the district, or encourage your residents to sign up to receive the email directly from the district, there's a place that they can do that as well, and they can choose what they want to receive the emails about. So when Randy pushes those out, the people who sign up for those categories will receive those emails automatically. But they have to sign up. We don't sign anyone up. Magic QR code. And there's all of our addresses, the websites, our Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We're out there. Any questions about budget at this point?
If the first selectmen's budget goes out in July, when is it finalized?
The first budget is actually approved in June. It has to be approved by June 15th by statute, so that'll be done. And we usually have a public hearing for the budget in August. That was on the timeline. It's normally our second board meeting in August. I think it's like the 15th or something like that this year.
And that June 15th is the high water mark.
That's the high water mark.
So,
yeah.
Steve, when that number that we pick or whatever we come up with on June 15th, it cannot go higher.
Okay.
Anything after that, any discussions, is either equal to or lower than.
So next Thursday, you'll see, it'll be posted tomorrow, but you'll see staff's first iteration of a draft budget. And like Laura said, every meeting between now and the adoption of that high water mark, budget will be on their.
It'll be an agenda item on the meeting.
Thank you.
Has anybody had any problem on going on, and we don't know as board members because we don't see it, the staff handles who's online and who's watching us. Has anybody had any problem getting on to be able to either hear or understand the process, or to be able to, let's see, if you have a question, to be able to jump in and ask during member comments? Has anybody had any problem with that? That's good. Okay.
It's a Teams link, so it's pretty easy to use. So.
All right. Anything else? No? Okay. All right, so the next item we have the admin building and the master plan, and then Daniel and Chelsea will, I was thinking Danny. Daniel and Chelsea will present this.
So let me start with, just with a quick raise of hands. Have you heard that the district is building a new administrative building? Pretty much everybody. Good. I mean, some communication got out to you in some form or fashion. So just, let's back up a little bit with history. So I've only been at the district, next month will be 2 years. So I'll give you 2 years worth of history and what I picked up from these folks. So it's my understanding back in 2017, 2018, the district, staffing-wise, outgrew its current space over there on Soccer Drive, off of Griffin. At the time, they were looking to purchase a building, a Girl Scout building. But due to resistance from the Pinecrest community, that purchase fell through. And so, fast forward to 2019, the district procured a modular trailer to put behind the building off of Soccer Drive. That was put in, staff was shifted around, etc. In 2021/2022, pretty much right after I started, or maybe even before I started, mushrooms started growing in that trailer, coming out of the floor. So through insurance, the district remediated those mushrooms. It was tented, or they came in and removed.
They came in and took everything out.
Yeah. So that was done. Staff went back in. Everything was good. Summer 2022, those mushrooms came back. submitted a claim to insurance. Insurance said, we're not paying for it this time. The remediation it's too costly. Again, that was a health and safety issue. I had started May of 2022. Brought it in front of the board, said we need to address this, we need to get staff out of that modular trailer, this is a concern. So we immediately started looking at our options. Could we rent? Could we lease? What could we build? What could we do? We looked at buildings like the Gartner building, way too large. We looked at the Comcast building. We looked at acquiring land off of Fairway Lakes Drive, which is where we're at. We looked at replacing the existing trailer. But what we ended up with is getting confirmation from our attorney, and we found out we were able to build on our land that we currently own, which is up at the Commons.
Because we did look at acquiring land that was going to be...
Yeah,
what,
800,000, I think it was. It was
Fairway Lakes Office Park,
Yeah.
we could acquire 2 lots for about $850,000.
Yeah. So at that time, the board, we weighed, and staff, we weighed all of our options. We got staff out of the modular trailer. We auctioned that off. We're currently leasing over in Fairway Lakes Office Park. We call it FLOP, Fairway Lakes Office Park. And we started the conversation of, can we build on our own land? Yes, we could. Attorney approved it, had to do loops and loops. So we hired Tetra Tech, who's the district engineer, to start design of that building. So this is end of 2022, August, September. So during all of that, we started, if you recall, we called it the 2023 Bond Series. Does everybody know what that Bond Series is? No. Okay. The district staff hired with our engineer, we identified a slew of projects that we knew we had to undertake. Large scale capital projects. If it's pond bank, if it's the admin building, if it's stormwater, irrigation system replacement, large ticket items that capital that Ed and Doug alluded to, that we kicked the can down the road for far too long. So we got, and part of that was an administrative building. This board realized that we needed a place of our own. We outgrew Soccer Drive in 2017, 2018, and here we are 5 years later, and we're still in the same boat. As part of that bond series, we put in the financing for this administrative building. Going through that process, we realized that Pelican needed to pay their share, and then the Greater Gateway paid their fair share. Whole assessment methodology, went through public hearings, did all that fun stuff. So, in the 2023 bond series, it's a 20-year bond, 20-year borrowing. The engineer's estimate at the time of borrowing was $3,620,000. We just finished design. We're actually out to bid right now for the admin building. And at 100% design, the engineer's opinion of probable cost is $4,125,000. So obviously there's a delta there that, when bids come in, we're going to have to make some tough decisions. The total estimated project cost is $5,015,000. So it's with site work and building and design, furnishings, furniture, fixtures, and equipment, etc. Here is the layout. I call it Delta Wing building. And essentially, this will be tucked into the corner behind Hampton Park's monument. The right wing is going to be more staff-oriented, and it'll be walled-off, controlled access. The left wing is for the public-facing. So we'll have a boardroom, we'll have 2 conference rooms, and this you're going way too fast. Oh, there we go, thank you. We'll have the boardroom, 2 conference rooms with an accordion wall. We'll have a media room in the event that, your HOAs, if you want to rent out, like we offer right now, it'll be, enhanced meter services that we'll be able to provide. This whole wing is dedicated to the public. It is your wing. If you want to go back. So then we have our staffing side. This board at their last meeting, might have been 2 meetings ago, Lieutenant Vaughn that was in here earlier. Have any of you heard of the Sheriff's Office Community Outreach Centers? We're working with the Sheriff's Office to get them a space in this building. So they will be here in Gateway for your convenience. We've had some meetings with them. This board approved it at the last meeting. So this isn't just an administrative building. This is truthfully a community building. And that's how it was designed. If you want to keep going. Is that it? So right now we're out to bid. This board at the last couple meetings, which that'll kind of lead into this next topic. The phase, I'm going to call it phase 1 of the park improvements, but it's really considered phase 2B because the admin building is phase 1. We realized if we're going to do park improvements at this 15-acre piece of land, we need to figure out the site work now because we don't want to build this beautiful new administrative building and the grading of the stormwater drainage be off and we're flooded in one way or the other. So we are working with our engineers to try to expedite that design of the site work for the park improvements to get it caught up. That way we make sure we're not flooding ourselves out. We want to protect our investment. So I'll pause with the admin building. Does anybody have any questions?
You're not having a Lennar building, right?
No.
And just and again, to put things into perspective.
No, hell no.
You're fine. You're fine.
You know, we have been of the mindset and philosophy as a board to, with these big ticket items, to debt finance them or bond them for 20 years. Just it's the right. I mean, we think it's the right thing to do because you take a $5 million project. It might have started at 3.8, and I think it's been challenging over the last couple of years when it comes to this type of estimation because the pricing is just all over the place. Supply chain, concrete stuff, so all these. It's a lot of variation. We do hope through what we've seen in some other projects is the estimate versus what's real that we can get some saves on this. We have seen that, so we're hoping that we'll come in and below that. But let's just take an example. Let's say $5 million is a number, which is is somewhat higher than our initial estimates. If we take that over 20 years and divide that by the number of residents, I think it was like 12,000 something on those lines. It's really what this building is going to cost you is $20 a month over the next 20 years, per resident, give or take. That's literally just a quick calculation. But
I'm not buying that at all. So I'll stay it right there. That number is bogus as hell.
What, $5 million?
$20 a month. This building is going to cost residents. If you don't own a house,
I think he's saying
I
think he's saying what the math that it is now. So with the math that it is now, with that cost, that's the math.
Yeah. Well,
but what you're saying is you don't think that that's the price that's going to be at the end.
That is exactly right.
So what I'm saying is let's just use the number.
If we're using that math, that's the number.
The number may or may not fluctuate. I'm just saying. Let's walk through just how you can swallow it yourself and how you can communicate it to your residents. And you're going to see this methodology used in other areas as well, because the bonds are the bonds are the bonds. But if you were to take the number, you basically will divide that by 12 and then divide it again by the number of EAUs that are participating. So as an example, $5 million will cost you about $20 annually. And that's rough math, and sounds right.
Doug, that's not even close. Here's the thing.
We're not going to
and
debate
there's going to be an
now.
email. I'm going to speak. I got the floor.
Go ahead.
I'm going to be putting out a document on this because I'm not going to be a participant of this game, this hoax. It's going to be transparent if it's on my watch. You've got $5 million. $5 million when you do debt retirement, 20 years. If you know anything about financing a house, the principal and interest payment is subsidized. It's nothing. It's nothing. The killer is operation and maintenance cost and reserve costs to rebuild that building, which is 2 times the principal and interest. I'm telling everybody right now, and the problem with this building is it's complicated. because this building is 59% paid for by your utility rate. It's not in your debt. It's in your assessment. This thing's broken down into three components. 27% on Gateway residents, 14% on Pelican Preserve residents, and 59% on your utility bill. Now that's interesting because the Gateway residents are about 5,200 people. The Pelican Preserve residents are about a third of that. The utility people are a combination of both. We have about 1,000 residents in Pelican that are Gateway utility users that the other people in Pelican are not. They're in the city of Fort Myers. So they're going to participate in that 59%. What it all, though, works out to be is that whether it's a utility bill that comes out of your pocket or an 001 or an 002 bill, it's money out of your pocket. So the easy way to look at this is let's just look straight line. Straight line is about 6,000 homes, units, commercials, everybody equivalent are paying for this. You take that total number and divide it by 6,000. That's the P&I, that's the O&M, and that's the capital reserve. You divide that, and I guarantee you, I don't know who you are, but I guarantee you if you know how to do math, the number's going to come out $100 on your pocket, out of your pocket at the end of the year.
Okay, so I'm going to go one more and we're going to wait until the numbers come and then that's when you're going to have it. What Doug was saying is he wasn't talking about operations, he was talking about the cost of the building. So you are right, there is going to be an operation cost, and you're absolutely right, it's going to be a reserve cost. But that's not what Doug was talking about. So that's what it's important. Sometimes we do have to listen to understand, not to respond. So Doug is talking about the cost, that the number that we're having in now. So he's right on that. That does not exclude, and that is not included the operation that Ed's talking about. That's going to be in addition to, and then the reserves to it. So we're just talking about two different things. So I think at this point, I would like for the board to just wait for those numbers to come, so we don't say exactly what we're asking you not to do to your residents. $20 and $100. Let's not do that. Let's wait for the numbers, and when we have them, we'll pass that on to you, and you're going to see it on the ink. That's the number.
Yeah, my point was $5 million is a lot of money. And when residents see that, the knee-jerk reaction is, how in the world are we going to pay for that? And they immediately think about the next year and all that. My point was debt financing over 20 years greatly reduces that and it makes it more manageable. And that's why we've taken on that philosophy for the majority of our CIP items. The number exact, that's what I was trying to say. The number could vary, but the methodology is there.
Nobody's trying to hide anything or to underprice it.
Correct.
Yeah, our problem is that we have gotten to the point, typically when you do projects, and I've done this for 40 years of my life, when you go in, whether you're building a water project, sewer project, any community building, before you go to bid, you give the owners or your client what the cost of the project. We've not done that. We've not done that.
Because we don't have the numbers.
We're not there yet.
The reason we don't have the numbers is because we aren't pushing our consultants to get the numbers. That's the answer. And I'm not going to be, I will not participate in it. Now, that's the bad news. The other side of the story, as far as I'm concerned, we need that damn building. We need that building.
He has somebody that's going to build it a lot cheaper. I'm just waiting for him to tell me who it is.
GoFundMe.
He's just holding on to that information.
My whole thing on this is I don't want to sit here and be Johnny Raincloud about what it's going to cost. I just want to make sure you understand what the cost is. The reality is we need the building. We need the building. But I want it to be transparent that everybody in this community knows, one, we need the building, and here's what the cost of the building is.
I wish he started with that.
I'm sorry.
I wish we started with that. We need the building, we're just not agreeing on the cost. But I think the best thing is once we have those numbers, and I think Bob I'm totally agreeing, and I think we all agree with this. There is no need to hide. I mean, you're going to pay for it, you're going to see it, or we're going to surprise you. And I mean, we all pay for it. You know, we all are residents of Gateway. I'm going to pay for it. Doug's going to pay for it. Ed's going to pay for it.
Well, keep in mind that in this budgeting process we're going through, this is front and center. We got two issues that are front and center. Most of this other stuff is just, it's simple. It's going to be a repeat. It's history, projecting our costs for the next year. Those are easy
Yeah,
year
this is
over year.
different.
We got two components this year that are going to rule the roost. It's this building and it's this park. Those two things are in and of themselves what's going to generate the cost for next year.
All right.
Thanks for that segue, Ed. Any questions on the admin building?
We need it. Remember what Ed said?
Did you have a question?
I don't deny that.
So no mention, no energy efficiency type aspects of this building to defray the operational costs?
Like what? Example?
Solar panels, solar heating, anything like that? Because the biggest expense here I'm finding is power. And it's going to cost a fortune to air condition that building, just from what I can see in the floor plan. And
That's
so
a great idea.
if there's nothing being done to kind of offset and defray some of those operational costs, I think you're missing the boat here. With all the new technology and energy efficiency.
I don't know if you've heard anything Tetra Tech on that, but it's a good follow-up.
All of the cost estimates I did for operation and maintenance are standard costing for electrical, HVAC, all of that. I am not aware of anything in the building that would presume to reduce what you're talking about on annual O&M.
But, you know, we continue to ask our vendors, i.e. Tetra Tech, to bring value engineering, look for cost-save opportunities, look for, you know, efficiency drives.
I mean, there could be aspects with FPL that they might offer you something for power efficiency.
My experience with FPL, so we did talk about
We wanna
their
talk about FPL.
lighting,
Don't talk about
because we
that.
are having FPL lighting for the parking lot. They don't have the solar lights that they used to offer back in the day. They had a solar lighting program. My experience with FPL in my previous role was that if you have solar panels, you're just providing that additional energy back into the grid. It's not really a one-for-one savings per se.
But
But it's worth asking.
But the point is, it should be something that we're looking at continuously. Actually, throughout the district, we should always be looking.
We need to ask the
Then
question.
Let me jump in real fast. So one way or another, you're eating a cost. If you go the efficiency route, you're eating it up front.
Yep.
Because it's more expensive. Just bottom line, those energy efficient toilets, tanks, electrical, those items, when they hit up front, you're going to eat that cost. Now, granted, you're going to reduce costs down the line for the O&M side of the house. So one way or another, they're still coming through. What most people do when they go through a design, through 100% design, is they come back at a mile marker, roughly around a 10-year mark, 15-year mark, even sooner sometimes, to say, what can we do internally now that we're coming back to remedy some issues for O&M to create a cost savings or an energy efficiency. And then when that comes around, that's when they implement it, and there's actually tax cuts and breaks for that as you go on for O&M side of the house. So I just wanted to say you're marrying the scales, but it kind of evens out.
But Scott, the question has to be asked and evaluated.
It's a question we need to ask.
David, we'll ask. Good point. You had a question in the back?
Yes, have you thought, like myself, I work for Foundation Building Materials. We supply drywall, steel studs, and acoustic ceilings. That'd be a big thing inside that. Have you guys thought about talking to people that live here in this community that might help with that cost?
So it's an open bid, it's out on the street. If your company does it, you can...
No, we just supply stuff. What I'm saying is, though, if Gateway buys it directly from me,
we can't, because
We
that's
can't.
direct
We can't do
solicitation.
that.
It goes out on the street. Now, I will say that suppliers have contacted us and said, because the bid says we want a purple wall. Well, can we offer you a purplish wall? If it's a comparable make or model, we allow the comp. We don't say it has to be this brand, make, model, whatever. So we have that flexibility in that sense. Is there any other questions for the admin building?
The only, I'm sure this has been considered, but when I looked at the schematic of the building, the staff portion of the building is on the right. And if I understood you correctly, the public portion is on the left. which included some conference rooms and a boardroom, and the board meets twice a month. I'm sure it's been considered, but do we need that big a public portion for this building? And would it save any money? I'm sure it would save some, but it seems a little, on quick look, to me, overdone on the public portion of the building.
So we looked at this in a long-term perspective. This building is going to be our home, period. I hope we never have to do this again. I won't be here for sure. But we looked at the occupancy of the meetings. We rent out our boardroom. So this could not, it doesn't have to just be a meeting room. It could be a room that the public rents out for a town hall, an event, or, you have a budget workshop, or it.
We have the Gateway Greens in the boardroom annually. Other than, I don't know.
A lot of HOAs meet here.
Yeah.
This is actually a revenue maker for us at one
A
point.
lot of the HOAs use the current boardroom.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Honestly, and to Flavia's point, the public wing is where we could generate revenue to help offset through facility rentals and things like that.
Also, it's also the staff's place to be able to swing out to for conference rooms beyond just office space. So when there's actual meetings above 3 or 4 people that you're crammed into an office, we'll be flexing into these spaces throughout, just like we do now with our boardroom, how we do our
The
meetings.
sheriff coming
Bid
and
open
and
meetings,
hosting. Yeah.
bid openings, okay.
All right. Go ahead.
What's the timetable?
We're waiting on bids right now, which kind of leads me into the next part about the Parks and Rec, how we're trying to push that forward. We were hoping to be shoveling ground this summer, but we've got some calls with our engineers to see probably by the end of the year, shoveling ground. Groundbreaking. A year under construction. Yeah. 12 to 18 months before final CO. We still have to get a building permit. I submitted the building permit 3 weeks ago with Lee County. They haven't even acknowledged receipt of it yet. They are swamped. So we have to follow the same permitting processes that you all have to as well. Any other questions for the admin building? All right. The Commons Master Park Plan. How many, by raise of hands, has seen the Commons Master Park Plan?
I raised 2.
2? 3?
I
Feet?
dream with it.
Okay, that's good. So again, we're getting some communication out. You'll notice do you want to take this slide?
Go ahead.
Okay. In yellow is the administrative building. In pink,
The new administration.
the proposed,
The
yes.
one that we just-
Yep, the one that we just had a power.
That one's been approved, it's in flight.
Yes. We had some minor changes with the driveway, but for the most part, that yellow phase is permitted through Lee County Development Order and it's ready to roll, other than the drive aisle. Now, the pink phase, can you guys see the colors? It's kind of hard on my side.
Yeah.
Okay. The pink phase is, how many of you took the survey that we sent out maybe 2 months ago? Okay, good. Great, so we're going to be sending out another one very soon. So the pink phase is what this board has directed as the first phase of the park improvements, of at least through design, right? So that phase includes our court sports. So part of the feedback from the community and that survey and prioritizing what we want as the first phase of park improvements is court sports, which include pickleball, bocce ball. Oh, look at you. Oh, I did that, didn't I? Pickleball, basketball, bocce ball, paddleball, a trailhead with bathrooms, and playground equipment. And of course the site work and all of the plumbing and piping that we have to do as part of that. Now the future phases, can you go back? It's everything in green. Future. Don't know when the future is. Could be 25 years from now. Future phases. But
Could you go back to the other slide that shows what's on the future?
yep. So when you do a master park plan, you only want to do it once, right? Because you really have to take into consideration really stormwater, your grading, your drainage, any of your utilities. Because you don't want to put something nice in and then have to go dig it up because you forgot to put a water line or sewer line or gravity line, whatever it may be. So when you look at this, you only want to go through permitting one time, or at least I only want to go through permitting one time. So we are required by the county to go and get a development order. So we have a development order for the admin building. What we would have to do for the park improvements is to amend that development order. And we're telling the county, here's what we would want to install and construct whenever. All right? What we're proceeding with right now and trying to push and bring forward and make it match in line with the admin building is the pink phase. Those court sports, that part of the park improvements. So the engineers, and there's a trailhead, if you see it connects to the FPL easement. So what we're trying to do is get all of the site work included in our bid with the admin building. Because whoever is building that admin building, they're going to bring their equipment out, their grader, and they're going to grade. So why not have them grade a little bit more over here? To Doug's point, get it in a larger quantity, there might be some cost savings. And we all have agreed that logically that makes sense. We want the pipes to be where they need to be. We only want to dig it up once. So we're trying to bring that forward with the admin building. We may end up having to delay the admin building. That way those site work can catch up. So at the last board meeting, actually we've talked about this, the last 2-3 board meetings. This was vetted through the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee, which is an advisory committee of this board. And that community survey, we all try to get input. We have another survey coming out soon, pending review of this board. We're working on getting the pricing and the estimates of the actual construction of said amenities. So that way we have, to Ed's point earlier, a number. To Flavia's point, ink. We don't want to just throw a number out there and say arbitrarily it's going to be whatever. We want to get numbers.
Well, Chelsea, another thing to make sure everybody understands is that we have a complication created by our own assessment methodology. We have to, this phase 1, which was the yellow, that goes back to the payment I was talking about earlier. 59% out of our utilities, 27% Gateway proper, 14% Pelican. When you flip over to that pink, all bets are off. All of that is solely by Gateway residents.
And
Pelican doesn't pay, Enterprise doesn't pay. It's just 5,200 Gateway residents. We got to keep those separated. These people over here at Pelican aren't going to be too happy if we blend $1 million over on their side of the fence. We can't do that. We got to segregate these costs.
And the reason why, so more
Why
importantly,
is that?
there's a reason why they don't pay, because they don't use it. But if they would like to use any of those amenities, when we get a fee schedule, they can pay into that. The individual homeowner can go to the office and say, I want to be using your pool. I don't want to use my Pelican pool. What is the fee? There'll be a fee and they can use that way. So they don't pay, not because we're giving them a break. It's because they don't use the facility. They are not allowed to use the facility unless they choose to buy an annual pass.
And it goes back to the lack of interconnect.
We have a rule that goes back to 2003 that some rocket science guy on his board did at that time, long since left Gateway, thank God, that said that unless and until a road connects Pelican to Gateway, they pay for none of these amenities.
And the other part of it is they currently have them all, and they paid for them.
You sure you don't want it?
Pelican has every one of these.
I mean, there's a lot more of us here.
Can we use your
And Pelican pays about $1,000 a month for that.
If the pink is there, there's going to be somebody there to supervise who's going in.
There'll be access control.
Security and access control, as far as I'm concerned, is got to be taken care of. I don't want half of Lehigh over here using the pickleball court.
Or Cape Coral.
I'd be worried about those.
Or Pelican.
No, actually, so this is something that Ed and I kind of look different. I want Cape Coral and I want Lehigh to go there because there's going to be a fee. The more they pay, then the less we pay. So I'm not opposed for them going as long as we charge them. So
As long as they don't jump over the fence and use it for
That's
free.
when we talk about access control. So a lot of the times, like, I know what Ed's intent is. Like, we don't want them there using it for free on our dime. I don't want that. But if they want to rent it and they want to pay a premium, I'm all for it because that will be less on us. So that's the mentality that I want us to go with. Like, let them pay, we less pay, and we all use it. So you know.
We're still working out the details of how
Go
that
ahead,
happens.
Daniel.
You know, to plug why Lieutenant Vaughn was in here earlier too, is that we're looking to probably bring him on site so that he has a community outreach center there located with us, so there's a community presence with the police department or the county sheriff's department. So hopefully we can mitigate any issues from people coming in and unauthorized use of the facilities.
And they were very excited. Actually, they showed up at the office yesterday unannounced, just to touch bases with Chelsea and say, listen, we were really interested. And I don't know if you guys know about the outreach spaces that they have. They have one at Edison Mall, one at Gulf Coast, and Miramar. So it's a face to it, to the Lee County Sheriff's Office. I mean, they can conduct some type of business there. They're not, it's just information. So we're thinking of all the options, I guess. That's the best way to put it.
Again, the point is this is a community that it's our goal to have this be the main hub. How do we get you out of your gated HOA to come up here? If it's a simple walk on the trail, or if you want to play pickleball, or paddleball, or your grandkids come into town, or your children, you want to come up to the playground equipment. Playground equipment has already been approved a couple meetings ago. That was budgeted in this year's. This is what we're proposing, what was vetted by the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee and recommended, and approved by this board. So again, we're trying to look at the bigger picture and how to get you out of your HOA, your gated community. So as of right now, we're for the financing of the park improvements. We've got a handful of options. So we've got some money in the bond financing, not much, but some. We've got approximately $350,000 from community park impact fees that the county has been holding and accruing for us. There's a time limit on using those, so you either use it or you lose it. And that was when you build or purchased your home in Gateway. These monies were set aside specifically for Gateway. So there's about $350,000 there. So typically with grants, and not to toot my own horn, but in Randy's, we've been very successful with grants in our previous roles at Fort Myers Beach. I hope to bring that here, truthfully. But the key to a grant, they want you to have design. They want you to have they want to see what you're building. Because if I just go to them and say, all right, I want to build a 20-story complex here. Even with, a bank, you got to tell them what you want to do, right? So there's plenty of grant opportunities. We actually almost entered into one for an outdoor fitness. Mm-hmm. We were successful with that. We said, this is too early. Let's hold off.
And historically, we have not been successful in this area. I mean, it's something that I know, Bob, we've been talking about for years, trying to get more traction on grants,
and we just could never.
This
is the first time around that we're actually in, yeah.
So for me, a grant is like a challenge. If I'm successful in a grant, everybody benefits.
We also have some additional dollars allocated to some other areas that we could reallocate as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's done every year through the budget cycle. So if what you mentioned earlier, Doug, with reprioritizing things. As a perfect example, we contemplated moving the dog park to the fun park, and we ended up not doing that. So that money that was budgeted for that specific item, that project this year, it's unused. Now it goes back into the reserves, but that's something this board, if they so chose, to reallocate it or repurpose that money for playground equipment or for new doggy park. I don't know. Just it's up to them.
And also splash pad, I think it's almost $300,000. So right there is $500,000. So $200,000 that we have set aside for this year for the dog relocation. We're not gonna do it. It's not gonna happen. So that money is gonna be there. And then this I think it's $300,000 for the splash pad that we're also not gonna do it because it's gonna be future phase. So right there, it's $500,000. So if the board Usually what it does is just goes roll over to the reserve, but if we choose to at our board meeting say, look, that dollar amount is gonna go into this, the parks, because that's what we set for 2023 budget. So let's just keep that there, so there is money out there, and we're not using it. It doesn't mean we're going to use it, but we can keep it on the same category. And I think that's important. Chelsea and I actually had a conversation about that yesterday, and we want to kind of bring a number to the board and say, look, we're not going to spend it. Let's just vow to keep this for Parks and Rec, because that was the intent of 2023, and we didn't do it. So we'll just, so there'll be no additional 2024 costs for it, because we're just going to be waiting on this.
And so, to the gentleman's point in the back, who, talking about, keeping it within your community, right? So my last bullet point on here is sponsorship programs. We're proposing 12 pickleball courts. How cool would it be to have your company that does foundations and all that stuff to sponsor a pickleball court and have your name on it for the 3 years of the life of that court? Talk about an opportunity to promote your business. And so internally, amongst everything else we're working on, we're putting together a sponsorship program, albeit for specific amenities, for some of the programs that we have. We have a fishing derby, some of those events that we have, or even as far or as big as naming rights. Thinking big picture. What opportunities are out there? One thing I've learned in the 2 years I've been here at Gateway is there are so many hidden
You people are sick.
people within Gateway that,
I work for you. I'm bilingual.
there's concrete companies in Gateway, or, we met a gentleman who works from home, and, his company is over in California, and they're a big name company, but he's right here in Gateway.
I heard that.
So again, we're trying to think outside the box for these park improvements. Again, as of right now, we're only looking at that phase 2 with the court sports, the playground, the trailhead, the bocce ball, the basketball, and the paddle ball. Again, getting feedback from the community. We have a vast, diverse group. We've got 4 schools in Gateway. We've got a lot of young families. You've got a lot of retired folks. You look at the census data, we're literally 50-50. I don't mean age. I mean split population. So that, in a nutshell, I'll open it up for questions.
When are we trying to have the survey out to them?
So it's coming to, the board at their last meeting directed Mr. Banks to work with staff to put together a draft survey that has the number, right? Everybody's saying how much. I'm working with the engineers to try to get that number. We're trying to plug that into that assessment methodology calculation that Ed Tinkle was mentioning. And we're trying to, that draft survey will be coming in front of this board next Thursday for their review and input. I'm hoping mid-May, truthfully, because it's going to take some time for us. Any feedback?
When's the bids supposed to be opened?
We delayed it again.
Back in
June. Second week.
Closes in June. He said June. Dana said June.
Second week, I think.
Where's the website that I
Sure.
just had?
So then,
The secret is that when you're doing public bidding like this, you have bidders hold their bids for a certain amount of time. I would like to have out to the entire community, hopefully before we open the bids, what the dollars of this are going to be. Because once we open the bids, the clock starts ticking. You have to award that contract in that period of time. If you don't, you go back and redo it all, and that's not cheap. So that's why I want this information out as quick as possible. Get that step behind us so that we have citizen and public input and support going forward. Or at least we've answered their questions. Doing it after we award the contract, little bit has the cart way out in front of the horse.
and it kind of goes back to my point. We really need the commitment from you guys to, once you get the survey from Randy, you have a say. You can do it, you vote however you want in your survey. Pass it on to the residents, because we are here for the residents. So it's important. We don't always agree, but we want what's the best for the community. So I would like, leaving this room today, a commitment from all of you that once you get that survey or anything that goes from the districts, we want to give those residents a voice. And we need you more than ever to pass on that information.
Get it out.
Because if they come back to us at the board meeting and say like, I didn't know. We don't know. We're like, no, we know your board. You send the information. If you chose not to read it, you learn the next time. But we did it. Your board did it. So we want to work with you guys. So it's really important. Once you do get that survey, send it out.
Share it as best you can.
However,
if it's next door, if it's Facebook, if it's
email blast,
And the key to all of this is not a public vote. It's a public survey to give us information
So we know what to do.
how do we do our job. If we had a public vote, we wouldn't be doing 25, what was it, Doug? $25 million worth of pond cost. It was because the state told us you're going to do it. Unlike that, we have a little bit more latitude relative to the park, perhaps to the building, on what we can do and what we can't do. But when we have stuff that we have to do, you can't rely on a public vote. That just, it's not the cards.
And yeah, let's go with questions.
I've seen a previous survey, which people were concerned about. Wasn't enough information. Wasn't the question option as no. What information is going on this survey?
They won't know because we don't know yet. So they're still working on the draft, and that was a we had a directive to give that as an option. So next Thursday, you'll get your answer because we haven't even seen it. Staff hasn't finalized it. You can go online.
The key to the survey, as far as I'm concerned, is to identify full transparency of the cost of this project. Operation and maintenance, debt retirement, and reserve costs. If everybody understands that this park's going to cost X dollars, and this is a simple add-on. I've been on this board now for 7 years, but I've been watching it for 17 years. I have seen hell raised at this board in August about arguing whether we should take and have a rate increase, an assessment increase of $10 versus $9. I'm telling you this time you're going to be talking $10 versus $100 or $200.
We're waiting for those numbers.
Is I wanted to know,
Tomorrow.
on this survey, the information that's going to be provided, will it tell the different areas, including just like Stony Brook is different than Pelican? Is it going to give information, educating people on how much every different homeowner is going to be?
Everybody pays the same in Gateway.
Angela, to answer your question directly, we are going to have a draft copy of that survey on tomorrow's agenda packet. Look at it. If you've got input, please give it to us.
I'll tell you, the focus, because we've been surveying around parks for 15 years at various times. So I believe we have enough cumulative data to, with a high degree of confidence, say what the people would like to see in a park. As far as what items, pickleball versus trails. I think we understand that. That's not what we're trying to get to.
Stuff.
That's the things that
We want the numbers.
Right. The numbers is what we're focusing on in the survey. And I would say to all of you, there's two components of that. One is how much is the park going to cost, and that's with the components. That's to build, that's operation and maintenance, and all those things. All that's important. But also, that'll only be a piece of the decision because you won't know the full impact until we complete the budgeting and the assessment piece, right? Because I think at the end of the day, this was kind of my argument the last.
There's not going to be a
No, you won't.
assessment.
You won't know. You'll know about what it's going to cost and the impact to you,
Okay.
but you won't necessarily know how that will.
Affects your taxes.
How it will affect your assessment.
No. Not if I have anything to do with it. We have given this to guys. We're going to tell the truth to these people. I'm not putting up with this.
Before you jump in,
Listen to me. I've got the floor. I am going to see that everybody in the community sees what this costs on your assessment, not waiting until after our rating on bonds or the bond assessment.
You're not listening to what I'm saying every time.
I hear it well.
No, you don't. You're not listening. My point is, we're going to tell you this is what it's going to cost
to do this.
To do this. What we can't tell you at this point is what your total assessment will be at the end of the budgeting process. That's my point. If you're listening to me.
Why not?
Because we won't know that.
Why not?
Because we haven't done the budgeting process.
Well, let me tell you, I've done this for all my life. If you give me the O&M, you give me the capital cost that I'm debt retiring, you give me the reserve and I divide it by the number of people, I can tell you what it's going to cost.
Yes,
But that's
that's
only a
not what I'm
portion.
saying.
But that's a
Ed,
portion of the
listen
budget.
to me,
There's
please.
still
I'm saying we won't know what the impact of the assessment as a whole will be until we complete the budgeting process. So out of, let's say...
You're talking about relative to all the
Yes.
other costs.
Yes.
That's not what they want to hear, Doug. They want to know what is this component going to cost me.
Do you care if your assessment is $100 more or $20 more? Is that important to you to know what that number is?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Is it important to you to know if it's $100 more that the park is 50% of that versus 5%? Is that important to you?
Every number is important.
Yeah, that's what I'm
That's
saying.
it, yeah.
We'll give them all the numbers, but they won't know the
We have a
total
difference
impact of the
of opinion.
assessment until the end. If I were to go to most people and say, our increase this year is 9%, which will be $100. Great, $100. Maybe that's that's tangible. I can swallow that. And we've tried for the past 7 years to set a threshold at single digits when we're doing assessments. We try to do that. If we go above and beyond that, and 70% of that is for parks or these other things, you are going to say, I don't want my assessment to go up that amount, and I definitely don't want the majority of it to be for these things that maybe we don't have to do this year. But if it's a reasonable amount, and the line item, let's say for parks, is minimal, 10% or 5%, whatever that is, then I don't think most people really are going to drive down into the specific line items. That's my one point. Now, I'm not trying to argue this, but I just want to make sure you understand what I'm saying, because what you're saying is right. I believe what I'm saying is right.
Yeah.
We're just not,
And
for some reason today, we are not connected.
All I
Angela,
want the people
Ed,
to know
one
is
second. Ed,
what is this unit of cost costing you?
But
Just this unit.
But what I'm trying to say is, so it will also be this, Angela, we're going to be $100 that's going to be increased next year. All of that is going to go infrastructure. She may be okay with that. But now if we say, Angela, it's going to be $100, $95 is going to be for parks and 5% from infrastructure. She's not going to be okay with that. So that's what Doug is trying to do. So there's a total cost, but then there are reasons why there are costs, because it's going to give them a voice to come at the meeting. At the end of the day, it's going to be the board of the supervisors is going to make that decision.
That's
And
correct.
I think I'll vow to continue to make the decision that I've been making for the last 3 years, which is the right thing for the residents. It's not always easy, but it's the right thing for the residents. And I expect the four of you to do the same. We'll give them the numbers when we have the numbers.
And Ed and I are on the same page 90% of the time. We get there together. We might bump heads coming out of the gate. We're not trying to do
My
that.
thing is, if this park, and I've done the math, and I don't think I'm wrong. I've done this all my life. I don't think I'm wrong. This is going to cost around $100, maybe $85, park component only. If this community comes out through a survey and they are supportive of that project, you've got my approval.
Okay.
What I don't want, and what I remember, is 3 years ago we put out a survey and it was immensely negative. Do nothing. 85% of the community do nothing.
But only 6% of the community took that.
No, it didn't.
Yeah, it did.
It was
so let's-
1,400 out of 5,000.
Let's go back-
That ain't 6%.
It's 6 o'clock. Let's go back to the floor and ask what other questions they have. We'll maybe to answer them now. If not, then you can reach out to Chelsea directly and she'll get you the
I have
answer.
a
Go
quick
ahead.
question.
Yes, it's not a for Ed, but because they're not
Very
allowed to
quick.
talk anymore.
Dinner's burning, I get it. The board will determine what's going to happen with the administrative building and the park prior to the August budget implementation or determination of that number.
We have to.
Well, the administrative
the
bill-
We have to.
The administrative bidding is already taken care of. It's done. The board
We
already
have to.
the board already voted on it.
So
that-
those
that-
are the,
So now we're
some of
looking
the
at
things
park
you're
phase
grappling
1.
with
Yes.
as you go through the budget.
Yeah, the issue we've got right now, we got some administrative deals to work with. Right now, we have $3.6 million budgeted for this building. We're up in the 5.1, 5.2, maybe even $5.5 million. So the first issue is,
Where's the other million?
where's the other money coming from? That's issue one. Then the second thing, which is what we've got to be working, and our consultants got to be working on, is this building. I think most of you are aware of that when you put in a building of this magnitude, 9,000 square feet, you are going to have O&M cost. And I'm guaranteeing you're going to have 6-digit O&M cost. We have to include those in this budget. The other thing is that what we've done miserably in this community for the last umpteen years is we go out and do something and then we don't put any plan for capital reserve for it. You take a $5 million building, and let's make it easy because I can do the math in my head. It's got a 25-year service life. That's $200,000 you have to include in the budget and the reserve.
Well,
That's a lot of money.
2714. 57.14%.
I'm sorry?
The 59.2714. Split
I don't care what the percentage is, it's money out of your pocket.
Correct, but we also, and it is going to be a shock for them, and I agree with you, because previous board have never done that. But you and I have moved on and past that.
Totally agree to that.
We
I just
get
want to
it.
make sure that I am so sick and tired of my community and asking me if I have you-know-what for brains of why you're doing this. We're not getting the word out to the people. That's why we need to get this survey out as quick as possible. If like I tell people in my HOA, I'll take you to the water. I'll show you everything I know, but I can't make you drink. If you don't want to read it, I can't help you.
Any other questions? Because it is 6 o'clock, and I think two of
So
us have to
you
go.
had mentioned something about looking into grants for the, have you read any grants yet for that? Seen about-
We did a good job on the park.
We have.
Yeah, we got grants on the park.
Yeah, we
but
have-
that building doesn't subject to
We
grants.
have one that, but that would be for a future phase, because that would be for an outdoor fitness. Once we get design done, then that's a piece of paper that I can go to different agencies and say, hey, here's our plans.
Right, but there should be some for the playground equipment, there should be some, each individual aspect.
Whatever's out there,
I'm a
we're
retired
going.
Public Works Director from Indiana.
I need your name.
And
You're hired.
we used to get tons of grants for
Now.
parks and recreation.
Staff's doing a good job. Staff's doing a good job on that park side. We're approaching and trying to get the grants for those. And in fact, we got grants on that. Our problem is that building. We don't have grants for that.
But thank you for volunteering to help us.
I will say right now, we're in a historical uptick on grant money being dealt out. Prior to COVID, it was very tight and very hard to get grants.
Yeah.
Right now, the problem is not getting grants. It's executing the grants per the stipulation of what they put out there. A lot of the infrastructure type of grants that exist, there's a timeline associated with it when you have to have design done by the time you have to have breaking ground for construction, and they're pretty tight. Especially when you have to work back and forth through 30, 60, 90, 100% design, put it out on the streets, run it through boards for approval.
Grant matches.
Well, you got other issues with grants.
Grant money is left on the table.
It is every year.
Every year.
A lot of times you accept grant monies, you can't restrict access into that park. So you got to watch that.
Each grant depends.
There's
So,
challenges.
But that's something you could. We're looking
That's
at
the
all
last thing we
avenues,
want.
yes. Any other last minute
Let this
questions?
become a little Lehigh.
What exactly are
The next
board
slide.
supervisors or your office, Chelsea, sending to each HOA property manager? So we know we're getting the information?
It depends.
I follow you.
It varies. It varies. It varies from a notification. It varies from a survey. It varies from an FYI or having Lee County Sheriff's Office do a presentation over there. It's a big range of things. I think the best person to speak to that will be Randy actually, because he's the one that puts it
Yeah,
out.
so
together.
it can vary from
what
project
our-
to project as well. I know that
Yeah.
we do specific ones for communities in Pelican, and then there's also stuff that's going on with the Lake Bank Restoration, so those specific communities are getting communication from us. I'm also available to speak at any HOA meeting if you want me to. I have our contact information up here in our contact cards, and if you don't have that information, customercare@gatewaydistrict.org, and then we can set up when I'm able to present the different communication avenues that we have available to you.
Yeah, so you can invite Randy to your HOA meeting, and then you can just say, this is Randy representing the district. Whatever questions you have, reach out. He may not be able to answer them there, but then they at least can put a face to the name, and then your residents will have a direct contact, and just creating that more partnership.
The reason I was asking is because I follow everything, and I'm already on top of it, but I'm concerned about our property manager not sending out information that she may have received from you.
So that's a direction with your board. So you speak with your board on the next Monday, 3 Mondays from now, actually your
I want to
meeting.
talk to Randy and find out what
And-
he's sending,
yeah.
because we may not be.
Any other
Yeah.
questions?
Oh, there we go.
Any other questions? With that,
All right.
thank you all for
Thank
coming.
you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Got some